Good evening and welcome to a summary of the news. Prime Minister Hani al-Mulki visited 3 gendarmerie personnel who were shot and injured during recent clashes with outlaws in the Ban district in Madaba 2 days ago. Accompanied by a number of ministers and military officials, Mulki was briefed on the conditions of the 3 security personnel. The Prime Minister also visited a number of soldiers and security personnel who were injured during the recent terrorist attack that targeted an advanced military post on the northeastern borders. The vote was 52 to 48% win for Brexit in the early hours today. Britons reacted with shock to their country's decision to leave the European Union, whether they welcomed Independence Day or were horrified at the outcome. The Leave campaigners and their supporters celebrated the vote, saying it would make Britain stronger. But in London, where residents voted overwhelmingly to remain in the bloc, commuters expressed concern that their jobs would be at risk. British Prime Minister David Cameron, who announced his resignation with tears in his eyes outside his residence at 10 Downing Street, will stay on until October, earning some time to try to smooth the transition in the Conservative Party. Now his closest rival in the party, Boris Johnson, the former London mayor, is the front-runner for his job. In Brussels, meanwhile, European Council President Donald Tusk said European Union leaders will meet without the British counterpart on Wednesday to discuss what is being described as a divorce process with London. Article 50 of the EU treaty allows a government to notify the European Union of its leaving and obliging the bloc to try to negotiate a withdrawal agreement. Reactions poured from across the world at the British vote to exit the EU. U.S. President Barack Obama said in a statement that the strong U.S. ties to Britain and the European Union would endure. The people of the United Kingdom have spoken, and we respect their decision, said Obama, who had argued passionately for Britain to stay in the group. Republican president nominee Donald Trump called the result of the vote a great thing, drawing parallels to his own unorthodox presidential campaign. And in response to Britain's decision to leave, Democratic nominee Hillary Clinton said the United States must first safeguard against any economic fallout at home at this time of uncertainty and underscore its commitment to both Britain and Europe. German Chancellor Angela Merkel said Britain's vote to leave the EU is deeply regrettable and marks a watershed moment for European integration. Merkel told reporters in Berlin she had invited the leaders of France and Italy as well as the European Council president to Germany on Monday to discuss how to secure European unity after Britain's referendum. Though with deep regret, she said, Germany has to recognize the decision of the majority of the British people. She said it's important that all the other 27 EU member states analyze the situation together in a calm and sober manner and do not rush into any decisions. And NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg told a small group of reporters in Brussels that he is concerned about a more fragmented Europe. But he said he had received assurances that London would remain committed to upholding Western stability. We have now a momentum in NATO-EU cooperation, and I expect that to continue, he said. Most people in Scotland and Northern Ireland had voted to remain, while England and Wales opted to leave, raising questions over the future of the United Kingdom they all belong to. This report looks into the reactions in both Edinburgh and Dublin.
In Edinburgh, Scotland, shock over Brexit.
I'm not impressed. Ridiculous.
Devastating. Dreadful decision. Dreadful.
Thursday's vote puts the UK as a whole at odds with Scotland, which voted to stay in the EU. Now many here are rethinking their own referendum outcome in 2014 to stay in the UK. It was thought at the time an independent Scotland won't be able to remain in the EU. Now that the UK is exiting the bloc, all that has changed. Scottish First Minister Nicola Sturgeon, who heads the pro-independence movement, says a second referendum to cede from the UK now looks very likely indeed.
As things stand, Scotland faces the prospect of being taken out of the EU against our will. I regard that as democratically unacceptable.
It's not just Scotland. In Northern Ireland, leaders of the largest nationalist party, Sinn Féin, say Thursday's ballot intensifies their case to vote on leaving the UK. Deputy First Minister Martin McGuinness.
For us to be dragged out of the European Union against our will is absolutely unacceptable.
Britain has been united for 215 years. Suddenly, the narrow vote to exit Europe threatens to strain the very fabric of the kingdom.
Israeli soldiers shot and killed a Palestinian woman who allegedly rammed a vehicle into a parked car near an Israeli settlement in the occupied West Bank, injuring 2 people. The occupying Israeli forces have so far shot dead at least 198 Palestinians, 135 of whom Israel claim were assailants. Palestinian officials had no immediate comment. And over to the Syria crisis, and Lebanon's Hezbollah said it would increase its military presence in Syria's Aleppo, saying the battle for the northern city is a fight to defend the entire country. Hezbollah leader Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah said as fighting in Syria intensified, 26 of the group's fighters have been killed in the Aleppo region since the beginning of June. Aleppo is split between government and rebel control and is seen as a strategic prize for Damascus, which has vowed to recapture it. Meanwhile, Europe sees a new surge in migrant rescue. Ships manned by humanitarian organizations, the Italian Navy and Coast Guard helped rescue about 5,000 boat migrants as calm seas returned to the Mediterranean, prompting an increase in departures from northern Africa. An agreement between Turkey and the EU to stop migrant departures for the Greek islands has reduced boat arrival by 98%, but arrivals in Italy continue at about the same pace as last year. And finally, the kingdom will remain under the effect of the heat wave for the next few days. Therefore, it will be hot in the capital and very hot in the Jordan Valley and the Gulf of Aqaba. Temperatures for the coming days will reach the high 30s in Amman and 44 degrees Celsius in the Gulf of Aqaba. Health authorities have warned against sun exposure during the hot spell, especially in the Jordan Valley, the Dead Sea, and especially in the resort city of Aqaba. With that, we come to the end of tonight's news. I'm Nancy Khair. Thank you for watching. Have a good night.